This is a special time for us to be here in this room, and we come here to remember unbelievable commitments to service and justice that resulted in greater service and greater justice. And I honestly believe that what Martin Luther King did left a legacy that changed not only the United States, but changed the world, and it changed the conscience of a lot of people. And so we're here, and I welcome you. Madam President, nice to see you, all of the officers of the Student Government Association, and all the members of the Student Government Association. You know that Franklin Pierce University is a proud place. You also know that it's the home of perseverance, integrity, engagement, respect, community, and excellence. And the fact that you're here tells us that you do have perseverance. I hope you have integrity. I know this group is particularly engaged because I see you all over the campus being very engaged. I see you and witness you practicing respect. I know you're part of the community, and I know that you are all examples of excellence, but you haven't achieved it yet. Because if you ever achieve excellence, there's more to do. So you're doing it. We're also here because we're paying tribute to Martin Luther King and his living legacy. Because his quest for service and justice was just like our quest for excellence. There's always more to do, and we're grateful for that. We also pay tribute to a very significant alumnus of Franklin Pierce University, and he is a unique alumnus. John Eason, class of '67, was the first graduate of Franklin Pierce to personify a change. He also has represented unbelievable service and justice. So it's particularly wonderful that he is here. And he might not have been here. In fact, he wouldn't have been here if it weren't for Franklin Pierce. That's a fact. He has a nephew who is with him, who is also a very proud alumnus of Franklin Pierce. He was class of '91, significantly younger than his uncle, but also contributes dramatically to the legacy of this great institution. And they both wouldn't have been here if it hadn't been for the engagement of one Larry Leach. And so I thank Larry Leach for helping to generate more interest and support for this. Larry's interest motivated a lot of people. And that motivation is contagious. And I can tell you that we're glad that he is contagious because he is helping to bring a greater conscience to all of us at Franklin Pierce University. I am here representing the university as its president. We're also lucky that you have the provost here representing Franklin Pierce, and we are an academic institution, and our provost, Dr. Mooney, is the head of all things academic. No one would ever accuse me of being that. So we're lucky with the provost here, and we also have Vice President Lisa Murray here, and she happens to represent all people who are former members of the Franklin Pierce community, because she oversees the alumni operation. She also is in charge of our advancement operation, which means she helps to raise money so we can advance. She's also happened to raise money so that we are standing on a foundation. But you are the most important foundation of Franklin Pierce University, so thank you for being here. This is a time of celebration, it's a time of reflection, and it's a time of renewed commitment. So thank you for being here. I'm grateful for your participation. My very first big event at Franklin Pierce happened to be this gathering a year ago. You know that I've only been the president of Franklin Pierce for 1 year and about 6 weeks or something like that. Some people stopped coming a long time ago and can't wait for the end. Others think I'm brand new today. But I tell you, I feel very committed to your success as students, and I'm grateful for the leadership that comes from the student body. And the fact that so many students are here says an awful lot. And you define what is best about Franklin Pierce, and that's what we've got to do everything we can to make sure the definition of Franklin Pierce success shows up more and more and more. In fact, opportunity. So with that, I say thank you for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Derek, who will take us through the program. And before I sit down, I'll say congratulations to all of the award winners, because you wouldn't be an award winner if you weren't making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, President Card, for your words and also your continued support for this amazing program. At this time, I'd like to move us through the program and invite Larry Leach up as he introduces our guest speaker for this evening.
Thank you, Derek. Good evening, everyone. There's a good thing and a bad thing about following President Card. And the good thing is that he introduces everyone and says all these kind words. And so now I don't have to say them. I can get back into why I'm standing up here. But thank you, President Card, and to the senior team that's here, and Mrs. Card is someplace in the audience. Thank you all for being here. There you go. And also to the Petersons, Andy and Kirsten Peterson are here. But let me talk about John Eason. Black Lives Matter. That's the phrase that's going around today, Black Lives Matter. Well, let me see, I must have been about 11 years old, and I found out that my life mattered. I found out that my life mattered to a young man who was in our community and who was the father to most kids, good, bad, and otherwise. This gentleman would be driving around, you were thinking of getting into trouble, and all of a sudden you would see him in his red GTO. And you go, uh-oh, there's Mr. Eason. And one of the things that our parents told Mr. Eason was whenever you saw my son or daughter getting in trouble, you had the opportunity to chastise them right on the spot. And today, if you hit a kid, you know, they have you in jail for, you know, violence and all that other stuff. Back then, it didn't matter. Your neighbor, John Eason, any adult that saw you doing something wrong had the opportunity to chastise you and give you a lick on your butt, and then when you got home, you got more than one lick, you got about 10. And normally you had to go pick your poison. I know when we were growing up, it was your father would say, go and get me a switch. And you would try and pick a switch that would break after about 5 hits. And if it broke, then he would say, go back and get another one and make this one stronger, so it won't last as long. But back to John. So John worked in the school system with my mother. And my mother, a few of you have heard this story, my mother never knew I played basketball. My mother would open the newspaper and scan right past me in the news playing basketball. Leach scores 22 points and leads Roosevelt High to another victory. And my mother could care less. The only thing my mother cared about is that the police did knock on the door and say your son was in trouble. And that's where John Eason came into my life. John Eason, unbeknownst to me, had watched several of my brothers get into a lot of trouble, lots of trouble. Even to the point of one of my brothers being murdered. And John Eason came to my mother and said one day, you know, your son is a very good basketball player. And if he goes to any other school other than Franklin Pierce, he will never graduate. This is the conversation he had with her, unbeknownst to me. So she said, well, what do you think, John? And he said, I got a great school that he can go to. And he'll be a big fish in a small pond. And I'll take it from there, Miss Leach, if you allow me to take your son's life into my hands. And she handed me off. I love her, rest her soul. She handed me off, and John Eason called me up and drove me to Franklin Pierce. And I got to tell you, every mile in this orange Cadillac that I drove up here in the back seat, all I could think of was, where is he taking me? I mean, I've never seen this many stars in my life. And wait a minute, there's trees. And wait a minute, is that a mountain? These were all the things that I saw coming to Franklin Pierce in New Hampshire. And all the while, John Eason is telling me how great a school it's at. And I've played against basketball players that were so good that I never, in my 4 years playing here, played against players that were better. And so we got to the gym, it was late at night, and we get out the car, and he says, "So Larry, this is Franklin Pierce." And there was a school that we used to play at called Nassau Community College. And it was an airplane hangar. And when I got out of the car and I saw this gym, I did like this. My career is going to end in an airplane hangar. And John starts telling me all the great things about Franklin Pierce, and I'm going, this ain't gonna happen. I am not coming to the school. And he's telling me I'll enjoy it, and everything is great, and the people are nice. The people are nice. So the next morning, I get up, and we come to the campus, and people are saying, "Good morning. Hello. How are you doing?" And I'm looking at him, and there's another friend that came with me, and I'm saying, "Hey, these people are speaking to us. They're saying hello. We're not used to that coming from where we grew up." But, in fact, it was true. The people were very nice. John Eason was kind of like the good guy in the community or the bad guy in the community. What he did for most of the kids is, especially for me and my group, there was a basketball group. And John would open up the gym and allow us to get off the streets and play basketball. So, when people say Black Lives Matter, back in the 70s for me, here's a gentleman that opened a gym, our high school gym, and got us off the streets to play basketball at night. The thing that I didn't like about it is he would play against us and beat us. And that wasn't very nice, because we were letting this old guy beat up on the young guys. And he would take much pleasure in being on the court all night and walking off and saying, "Oh, you guys can't beat me." And he would beat us every night, and our challenge was to somehow eventually beat John and get him off the court. And once you beat him and got him off the court, he would never play with you again. But he provided that service for a lot of young men in Roosevelt, Long Island. The other service he provided was, if you thought you were tough, John was tougher. And I gotta tell you, we did have gangs in our town. And if you were like a basketball player, or you had a really, really, really bad brother, like I did, no one would bother you. But then, if you didn't, and people would bother you, John would take care of it. John was a good guy. John would tell you, "Listen, you know your mother told you I can take care of you if I have to. So make sure you don't start trouble. You come in my gym, I see you on the street, you behave." But there was always some people that tried John. And John had to put them in their place. And then all over the town the next day you would hear, "Hey, did you hear John Eason took down the toughest guy in town? John Eason put him in his place." Because he had to wrestle with a few of them, because a few of them just were not going to follow the rules that he had in the community. So I'm here at Franklin Pierce, and I'm visiting and enjoying the food, believe that or not. I was enjoying the food. And John introduces me to President Walter Peterson, and President Peterson was the jock of all jocks. He was a president who loved basketball. And I think he wished that he could play as well as me, but he did love the game. And so we sat and talked about basketball and his time with the Boston Celtics. And all the time I'm saying, I am not coming to this school. I don't care what John Eason says, I am not coming to this school. So I'd like to introduce John, but I'd like to finish the story real quickly. So I go home and I leave my home and I move to Washington, D.C. because I wasn't coming to Franklin Pierce. and I went to work for Mayflower Moving Company. And we were moving military personnel back and forth between Washington, D.C. and Alexandria, Virginia. And one day I went to lift a box and I couldn't lift it. And I realized that this was probably not the career for me. So I called my mom and I said, Mom, despite my wishes, I'm going to go to that school. And my mother said, well, good, because you weren't going to any other school. Mr. Eason said, this is the school you're going to go to, and that was the school you're going to. So, Mr. Eason followed me the rest of the summer to get my FAFSA in. He was always at the top of the hill when I was playing basketball, and I'd make a play, a dunk, and I'd turn around and run down court, and there was Mr. Eason in his red GTO looking over my shoulder. So, for most of you, and he's probably going to tell you a story that I've never heard before, which is how he got to Franklin Pierce. But I know how I got to Franklin Pierce. I know how I've gotten this far in my life. Most people don't have the chance to credit people that helped them get to where they are today. I stand here without hesitation and tell you that if this man didn't save me when I was 11 years old, I would probably be dead. And he still saves me. When I got out of high school, he took me out to dinner and started talking to me about the next steps. When I got out of college, he opened up a checking account for me and put $1,000 in it and said, you're going to pay back that $1,000 in 2 weeks. He taught me how to bank. He taught me how to be a man. So when you hear about Black Lives Matter, this gentleman was doing Black Lives Matter long before that slogan came out. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce John Eason to our audience. And part of the respect that Franklin Pierce is paying to John Eason is we have created a scholarship in his name to give out to a kid of his choice at a high school in Long Island that he's worked for or worked with, or a kid that he feels deserves the same opportunity that he gave to Larry Leach. So John, if you can come up, I really appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice when you get a chance to come home. Yeah. I thank the president, members of the board, these beautiful ladies on my right. This has been my home for 50 years. I came here with nothing, and I'm going out on top. This is quite an honor. Thank you. I don't have a lot to say. I got some bad habits here too. I ride a motorcycle and I love it. I keep some heavy toys in my garage. I lost 3 of them the other. Sandy. Life goes on. You're in the right place. Your life is going to be what you make it. Not only was I an educator for 30 some odd years, I still own my own business. I had to train my daughters. I have 2 daughters that are doctors already. Well, one's to be a doctor in May. One's already a dentist. The other one does computers. And I got places to go. And I got sick this week. Before I got here, I was really in trouble. I lost 26 pounds in 11 days. So I stuck to it. You're in a great place. I had the opportunity to be one of the architects of this campus. Because I was on the board of trustees for 22 years. And I flew all over the country, players, Walter Peterson, Frank DePietro, they were presidents of the college. They did a great job there. they made dreams come true. So, you're doing the right thing. Coming to range. Should I come to range? Yeah. I've been on a motorcycle, I've been on little toys. You're gonna have, remember you're gonna meet people, and because I'm gonna get off quick. I was in the hospital the other day, and I get a call from one of my classmates, a guy that I met, I'll say, a long time ago. He's in Florida. What are you doing in the hospital? I said, well, I'm trying to get out of here. I got to go to Rennes. They're talking about honoring me. I said, he said, I'll see you in the spring. I said, all right. I've been very blessed. You're blessed at a place. They've done a fabulous job. The campus is impeccable. My nephew, Miles, thank you. I have other members of the family here. Larry, thank you. You have a check for $4,000? I'm gonna add to it. Leave it alone. I'll tell you about that later. Don't worry. Don't worry about it.
You're like a vaudeville show. I'll take care of that for you.
It was funny. It is a vaudeville show. That's what life is. Met some very important people over the years. From Long Island to the Range to San Francisco, San Jose. My daughter and I just come back. Well, she just came back from Costa Rica. We're just in, we're out on the Mediterranean doing something. Who knows? Had a lot of fun. Don't forget to have fun. I'm going to leave you with a few steps. Don't be afraid to dream. Follow your dreams. Your dreams owe you something. They owe me a paycheck. Go get it. Because if you don't get a paycheck, you're not going to fulfill a lot of those dreams. This is pretty easy for me. I was in charge of 52 high schools for a while. Boys basketball. That was fun. And then I got a chance to every so often run the range. Get this thing on. Watch. Where do you guys eat? The big hall. Where's the?
Well, we ate under the Edgewood.
Edgewood, yeah.
That's where we ate.
Oh, okay.
That was the cafeteria when we were here, right?
Yeah,
Tim?
yeah.
The Flint Center, or the Campus Center.
Okay.
It's changed names now. That's where they eat now.
We started. You had people on the board like myself say, look, it's got to change. You want kids to come to Franklin Beers? You got to bring them. What are you going to bring to the table? Are you going to make it worth my while? President Carter, members of the board, they've done a fabulous job. When I left the board, it just got better. But the original designs, a lot of these designs that you see on this campus now, were done by people who had a vision, who showed that what they call it, imperturbability, I guess is that it. They taught me one or two decent words. So, chase your dreams. Don't let anybody. I have a daughter, she's nuts. She is nuts. She studies all day. She goes to graduate school at Columbia. But her dad went to Franklin Pierce. Thank God.
You got it?
I got it.
Thank you, Mr. Eason. It truly is an honor to have you here today. We're thankful for all the support that you've given to Franklin Pierce over the years. Our award recipients. This has been the 6th year that Franklin Pierce and A.L.A.N.A has given out the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Service Award. This year, we received more nominations from faculty, staff, students, and administrators than we ever received before. The idea of the Dr. King Service, or the Dr. King Award, was conceived by Franklin Pierce alumni back in 1968, shortly after Dr. King was assassinated. A student by the name of Isaac Hughes and a group of students and a few faculty members tried to make a permanent scholarship. Unfortunately, they struggled to find the funds, but we're honored that we now have the scholarship back and that we're able to give it to very deserving students. As the board members read the survey responses and essays from our candidates, we were impressed by the depth, the dedication, passion that you have not only for Franklin Pierce, but for your communities at home. And it is a privilege to stand up here today and to present these awards to you. When your name is called, please step forward so that we may present the award. Our first award recipient is Marquita. Through her service, Marquita has worked with police departments, first responders, and youth to create a safe community for all people. As a mentor to youth, she has been a role model that they better understand their role as being active and healthy members of their community. Whether it is volunteering with the police, and teaching CPR, or feeding the homeless through her church, Marquita remains an active and engaged citizen within her community. We are honored to present Marquita with the first Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Service Award.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we decided to wear the same shoes. Might have been helpful. Our next award recipient is Sadi. Sadia has been an active member of our church back at home and volunteered with anti-hunger and poverty programs. While at Franklin Pierce, Sadia has been involved in the Pierce Prospective student group as they discuss issues of racism and how they support the values of multiculturalism. Sadia also serves as a representative on the A.L.A.N.A Advisory Board, and it is a great pleasure to hear her responses and the passion in which she challenges us to fulfill the goals and initiatives of our program. I'm honored to present Sadia with the Martin Luther King Jr. Service Award.